Today we're talking about the Sega CD. This was an add-on for the Sega Genesis and offered CD technology, which brought new games to the Sega Genesis library. You're going to have your favorites. I know I have mine. Sonic CD, Eternal Champions, Dark Wizard, Snatcher, Lunar 1 and 2. The list goes on. That top 20, was really pretty solid for the Sega CD. And we're not talking about any of those games today. We're talking about the worst of the worst bad games on the Sega CD. And boy, there was plenty to choose from. I choose 5 bad games from the library, and I'm going to explain why they're on the list. So sit back, relax. You may want to grab some popcorn. Here we go. I ended up putting this game on the bad Sega CD game list, but I had some help from you, people that voted for this on a poll I did on YouTube community versus Mega Race, which I don't think was great either. But this is an early Sega CD game, and let me show you why it's here. First booting it up, you're going to see an awesome intro, and you're going to think, this game's going to be awesome. I mean, fighting robots. How can you mess that up? With the power of the Sega CD, this should be fantastic, right? Fighting games were all the craze of the 90s. You can choose between 8 different robots, a couple different modes here. I didn't like the menu, I didn't like the setup, and when it comes down to the fighting, this is boring. Now, this is the follow-up to Heavy Nova, which I did cover on my Micronet ranking video, and this is just as bad. I don't think it's much better, maybe a little bit better animation, but this is a bad fighting game. Boring. All the moves are the same, doesn't matter what robot you choose. You can throw, there's a projectile, but that's it. I mean, there's just really not a lot of skill here. And quite frankly, one of the worst fighting games on the Sega CD library. Avoid this. This is terrible. One of 2 baffling sports games that made this list, and this is Bouncers. Bouncers is trying to be, well, I don't really know what it's trying to be. You can choose a couple different options, and you can even watch a cartoon. Woohoo! And, this is the problem with a lot of Sega CD games back in the day, is it try to add this, full motion video or CG cutscenes to make it worth your purchase. And so the actual game here is you're trying to make hoops, and you can't get into the hoop by yourself. You have to bounce off your opponent and be able to get into the hoops. And so there's different levels. The graphics are nice, but that's kind of where it ends. This is just truly awful to control. It's frustrating. Often you are actually helping your opponent score against you. Even with all the different modes that this game has, it is terrible when it comes down to control. It's not fun. The characters kind of remind me of like a discount spot reject for 7-Up. And so I hate this game. I never liked it. Played it back in the day. Eventually got it, for the collection. But oh my goodness, this is just so bad to control. It's not fun. It has kind of like that children's kind of theme to it, but it's not fun. And your kids are not going to enjoy playing this. It's going to be frustrating for them, as it's truly terrible to control. This makes the list because of the awful gameplay. Avoid this. This is one of the worst sports games on the Sega CD library. An absolute mess. Next up is the Lawnmower Man, and it represents everything that was wrong with many Sega CD games on the library. I'm actually a fan of the movie. I think it's interesting, kind of has an interesting concept. Tapping into that movie, someone thought it was a great idea to make a Sega CD game, and here we go. And the story is pretty much revolving around Dr. Angelo, pretty much experimenting on Job, and he becomes super powerful in virtual reality. And so you're doing a series of mini games. There's 10 different games, and so a lot of them just have very limited control. Full motion video games was all the craze back in the day, but you just don't have a lot of variety with gameplay. And on top of just terrible graphics, it's grainy, it's hard to see what's going on. This is not a good game whatsoever, and you have kind of these repetitive death scenes and you're going to die quite a bit. You know, the very first game that you play has inverted control. Once you figure that out, you can get through it. But a lot of the mini games are just absolutely boring. You have to kind of get through the racing scene, and you know, once you do that, you have to tap on buttons and move in the directional pad just at the right time, and you can get past it. Okay, not a problem with that first one. Then it goes to this next mini game, which is truly awful. You have to crack the code, and you have a series of symbols and numbers and letters, and it's just not fun. This game looks bad, plays bad. It is just a waste of a game. It's not really a game. It's just kind of an eclectic combination of little mini games that they thought would be cute and fun to put together into one collection, and it is dreadful to play. One of the worst full motion video games on the Sega CD library. Ladies and gentlemen, I present you the worst full motion video game on the Sega CD library, and it's NFL's Greatest: San Francisco versus Dallas, 1978 to 1993. This is not really a game. It's taking full motion video clips, and pretty much you can choose either to play the San Francisco 49ers or the Dallas Cowboys, and you get to call the plays, and then you watch this terrible, grainy series of video clips that play out that your call, and you're not really controlling anything. You know, there's so many other great football games on the Sega Genesis library. I did a whole video on the Madden games. I've covered several game companies that made football games. This is truly terrible. It's actually from Sega Sports, which makes it worse. And so you choose a series, a variety of plays. You're not controlling anything, and it looks terrible. It is truly just a good example of, you know, taking that current trending technology and not making good use of it. And so this is just a really bad sports game. You know, you're better off buying a video of your favorite football game and just watching that versus this. I mean, it just the graininess of the video really ruins the video option for this. Now, of the time, okay, sure, but this is not aged well whatsoever, and even at the time there was better football options. Avoid this train wreck. In my opinion, the worst sports game on the entire Sega Genesis library. Next up is a truly awful platformer, and it's Wild Woody. This was kind of a late release for Sega CD, 1995, and you know, it borrows heavily from games such as like Earthworm Jim. Terrible cutscenes in which a totem collector has his cat knocked over the totem, it breaks apart, and so it animates a pencil to help him collect the remaining pieces of the totem or something like that. It's just a dreadful story. But this makes the list because of control. I don't think the graphics are terrible, but hit detection and your character moves so sluggish. Now, it's kind of interesting where you can like erase enemies, but you're constantly getting hit by enemies that you cannot avoid, okay? And there's these notes and sketch pads that you have to collect, and it doesn't keep track of those. You have to manually keep track of the things that you pick up. I think that's just terrible and lazy design. And so, there's 5 different worlds, but you're not going to go back and play this because, it is just awful to control. The gameplay really ruins this experience. I'm fine with a platformer. I'm a big fan of platformers, but this has to be one of the worst ones I've played on the entire Sega Genesis library. Absolutely hate this game. It is just an absolute mess to control. I don't think it's funny. It's also known to have a naughty Easter egg, which I'm not going to show, of a mermaid. And so this game truly belongs on one of the worst Sega CD games of all time. Terrible. So those are my 5 picks for some of the worst games on the Sega CD library. Did you agree with my picks? What are your picks? Truth be told, I could have totally chosen 5 full motion video games, but I kind of think that's cheating. The Sega CD library had a wide variety of games but man, did it have some stinkers. I could have done 20, but it's kind of fun to narrow it down to the worst 5, or 5 that I think are the worst. And so if you like what you see, you may want to consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading content every week. I do bad video game series. I do ranking videos for the Sega Genesis. I do product reviews. I do game reviews. And so I want to thank everybody for coming to my channel, and let's keep it positive. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you have a great day.